Prophet Jonah. I am Reverend Imran Shuker. Prophet Jonah, Pastoral Application and Hermeneutics. Questions on Biblical Hermeneutics. Number 1. Whom were they writing? Number 2. Is the choice of word significant? Number 3. What is the cultural historical context of the passage? Number 4. What was the author's original intended meaning? Number 5. How did the author's contemporary understand him? Number 6. Why did he say it that way? Number 7. Who was the writer? Introduction. The book of Jonah is different from the other prophetic books of the Bible. Typically, prophets issued warning or give instructions to the people of Israel. Instead, God told Jonah to evangelize in the city of Nineveh, home of Israel's cruelest enemy. Jonah did not want those idolaters to be saved, so he ran away. The book of Jonah highlights God's patience and loving kindness and his willingness to give those who disobey him a second chance. Prophet Jonah. I am Reverend Imran Shuker. Prophet Jonah, Pastoral Application and Hermeneutics. Questions on Biblical Hermeneutics. Number 1. Whom were they writing? Number 2. Is the choice of word significant? Number 3. What is the cultural historical context of the passage? Number 4. What was the author's original intended meaning? Number 5. How did the author's contemporary understand him? Number 6. Why did he say it that way? Number 7. Who was the writer? Introduction. The book of Jonah is different from the other prophetic books of the Bible. Typically, prophets issued warning or give instructions to the people of Israel. Instead, God told Jonah to evangelize in the city of Nineveh, home of Israel's cruelest enemy. Jonah did not want those idolaters to be saved, so he ran away. The book of Jonah highlights God's patience and loving kindness and his willingness to give those who disobey him a second chance. The prophet Jonah, son of Amittai, date of writings 785 till 760 BC, written to. The audience of the book of Jonah was the people of Israel and all future readers of the Bible. Landscape of the book of Jonah. The story begun in Israel, moves to the Mediterranean seaport of Joppa, and concluded in Nineveh, the capital city of the Assyrian Empire, along the Tigris River. Themes in the book of Jonah. God is sovereign. He controls the weather and the great fish to achieve his ends. God's message is for the whole world, not just people we like or who are similar to us. God requires genuine repentance. He is concerned with our heart and true feelings, not good deeds meant to impress others. Finally, God is forgiving. He forgave Jonah for his disobedience, and he forgave the Ninevites when they turned away from their sins. Authorship and date. The commentators who have interpreted the book as an historical narrative identified Jonah with the 8th century prophet mentioned in 2 Kings chapter 14 verse 25 and consider him to be the author of the book. However, the majority of the scholars today denies Jonah's authorship and date the book between 400 and 200 BC. Two reasons of arguments. Number one, the centrical tone in which the author writes about the prophet in the third person suggests that he was not writing about himself. Number two, the lack of significant details, such as the name of the land where the fish left Jonah and the name of the king of Nineveh, suggests that the author was not writing about contemporary events. Symbolism. The danger of death is expressed in water symbolism because for the Israelites as well as for the Babylonian, the sea was the kingdom of death. Jonah's psalm is so worded that it might be a song of gratitude sung by any Israelite delivered from any mortal danger. But this fact does not necessarily mean that it is not original, for the psalm do not always adopt themselves to concrete situations. Integrity. The unity of the book as a composition has been denied by some who find in it apparent interpolation and transpositions, but attempts to recompose the story in its original form seem rather artificial. Scholars agree that the psalm in the second chapter does not fit well into the whole. The language is different from that of the rest of the book. Literary form. If the book is studied in relation to its life setting in post-exile Israel, if it compared to the legends of the prophets, the narrative of the symbolic action, subject matter, there are two types of which the Jonah story can be compared. Number one, the legends of the prophets. Number two, the narratives of symbolic action. The legends of the prophets are a later development of the historical genre in which the authors take liberties with the historical fact to teach a lesson. The first book of Kings, chapter 12, verse 13, then chapter 13, verse 21. The narratives and symbolic actions are stories in which the activity of the prophet has sign value. The first book of Kings, chapter 20, verse 35 till 43. Then the book of prophet Isaiah, chapter 20. Then the book of prophet Jeremiah, chapter 27, verse 1 till 8. The similarities between the Jonah story and these two kinds of narratives about prophets' deaths that the author of Jonah has as his chief concern the teaching of a religious message. Allegorical sense. Literary form of a book of Jonah as a parable with elements of allegory. Some of the characteristics of the Old Testament parables. The second book of Samuel, chapter 12, verse 1 till 14. Then the first book of Kings, chapter 20, verse 39 till 41. Then the book of prophet Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 1 till 6, are shared by the book closely knit structure, vividness, brevity, didactic purpose. Contemporary understanding. Although scholars differ as to the term that should be used in determining the literary core of Jonah, they would agree that the book is not to be classified as history. Their reasons may be summarized as follows. It lacks the significant topographical, historical, and chronological details that would give the narrative the precision of an historical account. Pastoral applications. Causal effect of the spirituality. Similarity with the life of Jonah and Jesus in our time and need. Listening inner heart and follow God's call. Faith and work. Extended compassion. Important question in our time. Number one, what should God's compassion look like in your circumstances? Number two, what does your life say about God's compassion? Number three, like Jonah, do you at times run away from your responsibility to communicate divine compassion? Number four, to whom do you have the most difficulty showing compassion? The bibliography. These are the books which I use to explain this resource. Thanks for watching. Have an eternal home. God bless you all.